All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay inside your houses and get ready. This is the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I'm your host for all 109 episodes. 109 episodes. Rob Fanzo, joined once again by, he's still locked down in his apartment, Matt Rhodes.
Hey-o, locking it down.
Locked down. Where? How long you locked down till now?
Well, they extended it to the end of April. So I think we started before you, because you got yours. I think we started maybe even 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before you.
Yes, that sounds about right.
But yeah, they're extending it to end of May or end of April. And then we'll see if they extend it more. They might.
Yeah. Yeah, we're till the end of April as well. And I expect to be beyond that too. So we'll see. Yeah. Great thing about doing a podcast remotely, though, I've seen a lot of podcasts lately doing theirs remotely, and they're not quite equipped because they do it typically in a professional studio. The good thing about us, Matt, is that we're not professionals, nor do we have a studio, so we don't have to worry about that. We've been doing this remote for 109 episodes.
Yeah, we just lean on our audio engineer to make us sound good.
That's right. Yeah, Dave does his job every week, and he makes us sound great, and so we are probably one of the best sounding podcasts out there officially now.
That's right.
At the moment.
That's right. That's why we pay him the big bucks.
That's right. Oh, right. So anyway, I do want to remind people, if you like what you hear, you can go rate us first and foremost on Apple Podcasts or any of the podcasting services of your choice, Stitcher, Patreon, Podbean, YouTube. Every week, we've been releasing this by Wednesday at noon. Sometimes I've been dropping it on a Tuesday night because we've been ahead of schedule lately with everything. And so I've been trying to go ahead and give it to people. I know I'm always eager, especially with being stuck inside, to hear the next podcast episode as soon as possible from my favorite podcasters.
That's right.
So I've been trying to drop it in hopes that, maybe we'll get some people out there who are really enjoying it and also sharing that love as well. So please, everybody's stuck at home. What better thing to make them do than force them to listen to us for an hour?
Exactly.
Matt, so we're going to have a big show for you today. We're going to talk a lot about Last of Us Part 2 being delayed. And actually, a reason I think it was delayed, and I think since I first heard this story, I think Neil Druckmann has come out and said something that was kind of what I was thinking, but I want to express it maybe in a little bit different language. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII shortages, early street date releases, and Sony's spring sale, and if it's a letdown or not. Plus, we have a couple bits of news as well to cover. But first, as tradition dictates, I believe we should be talking about what we've been playing.
We should. That's correct, Robert. I have been playing Rocket League and Fortnite, and I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So pretty much same as last week.
Same as last week. So you're keeping it consistent. Pretty much consistent.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I think I played something on my Switch, but I think it was probably just Fortnite.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'm just plugging away at AC Odyssey. I feel like I'm really getting close to the end. I got close to what I thought was the end, and they're like, "Oh, I have to do this. There's so much more story to explore." I was like, yeah, that makes more sense. I was like, this probably could have been the end had I not just jumped the gun.
Oh, okay.
Because they have like those parts where it's like part animus, like part like you're actually in Greece, part like you're in like the real world, the futuristic real world. So yeah, kind of jump cut to that, and I was just like, she's like, no, I have to go back to the animus. I was like, oh, well, yeah. I probably should have done more of the actual other stuff for her to be like, oh yeah, my journey's complete. But that's okay. No big deal. Yeah. Cool. How about you, Robert? What have you been playing?
Pretty straightforward. I've actually spent the week playing Doom Eternal and Neo 2. I was trying to finish Doom Eternal, and then I realized I was not even halfway through it. And I like it. And I think I might have talked about this a little bit last week. If not, I'm just going to keep it short anyway. I like it, but I think I like Doom 2016 a little bit better. I finally did get to a part where I got a really, really awesome weapon in Doom Eternal. And so it's kind of changed the game a little bit where I feel it's a little bit more fair because that game's really freaking hard. But I'm still enjoying that. And Neo 2 is just probably my game of the year so far. And I know I said that about a couple other games earlier in the last 2 months, but Neo 2 has blown me out of the water. I like it way more than the first one. So I love the first one. Yeah. So just those two. I want to get back into the Hunt Showdown. I did finish Bayonetta finally. I don't know if I mentioned that. I think I was going to, so I said I was going to finish it after the podcast last week.
Yeah.
And I since then have finished it. I've platinum Twin Breaker, Sacred Symbols Adventure, which I don't know if I'd done that by the podcast last week. I played a couple games of the show 19. So I guess I didn't just stick with Doom Eternal and Neo 2. I guess those have been my two main ones, but I've touched on some other ones here and there.
Yeah.
And then on my Switch, I guess I finished Luigi's Mansion, which I may have mentioned on the podcast last week. And I started working on Breath of the Wild, and I couldn't remember where I was in Breath of the Wild because I was only like an hour in. And I realized why I quit that game. It's just too big. I can't do that. It's just too big. And I know that's like blasphemy if you're a Nintendo fan, but we'll see. I might get back to it. Don't be surprised if this time next week, if I'm telling you that I'm playing Animal Crossing, because I am so tired of seeing Animal Crossing on my Twitter feed.
Oh, yeah.
Even my wife, and I'm on a teacher's thread on Reddit, and they talk about Animal Crossing and how they're playing in their spare time. And even my wife was like, my students keep writing about this game called Animal Crossing. And I was like, goodness, I guess I'm going to have to get it because no one will shut up about it.
You're just giving in, Robert. You're just giving in.
Well, I was kind of hoping that if I got it, I'd hand it over to her and I'd be like, why don't you try this out? And then maybe she could fall down the crack pipe instead of me.
Yeah. So just like me with Fortnite, you're like, oh, I'll just light the crack pipe, but I'm going to pass it on to you.
I'm an enabler, I guess. Is what we're really saying.
Robert, clearly.
But no, I think she would enjoy it. I know it's what I like about it is it's a game that you're not supposed to play for more than like a half hour to an hour a day because it works in real time. And so I may dive into that because I know I won't waste more than a half hour, 45 minutes every day.
Right.
On it. And whereas like Neo 2, I'm obviously trying to sink 3 to 4 hours in at a time. Doom, trying to sink in 2 to 3 hours at a time.
Yeah. I think with Animal Crossing, doesn't also force you to leave the game every once in a while? It doesn't force you to, but what happens is since the in-game world is based on real time, you can only do so many things and then you have to come back the next day because it's linked to your Switch clock and the internet clock. And so what happens is you might have a museum coming or a zoo coming to display all your animals you've caught, but you can't get that until so many days have passed on the island, which is so many days in the real world. Okay, that makes sense.
That's why I was all over my Twitter feed because people were doing extra stuff because they had quarantine forced them to have more time to play with it than they were supposed to. And so they were like, I've run out of things to do today. So I literally caught every animal on the island and put it in a cage. And it was just stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a PlayStation podcast, so I don't mean to belabor the point about Animal Crossing, but I'm just letting everyone know that if by this time next week you hear our next recording and you're like, I'm talking about Animal Crossing, you'll know why. Because I can't stop seeing it everywhere. I even pull up YouTube videos and the advertisements are Animal Crossing. All right. So, Matt.
Yes, Robert.
Just to keep up with our total PSN game counts, how many games will be released this year on the PSN? Well, we're up to 215 after this week, and we're going to read 15 more today. So we'll get to those in a minute. First, I want to talk a little bit about news, and I want to talk about our 5-hour game suggestion for the week. It's a game I haven't played yet, but I want to check out. It's a mixture of a dungeon crawler and a pinball game.
Ooh.
And it's called Creature in the Well. We read about it last week. I looked it up. It takes about 5 hours to beat, 4 to 5 hours to beat. So if you're looking for a game to play within a day, that's what we'll call it. Game within a day, Creature in the Well. Just a suggestion. I will probably play it at some point when it goes on sale and let you know what I think.
Cool.
I think it's $11 on sale right now on the store because it just came out. I might be wrong. All right. Anyway, let's hit up some news real quick and then we'll get into those topics. And so the news will spill over into the topics, of course. First and foremost, Pete Hines of Bethesda did announce on Twitter this past week that Fallout and Elder Scrolls publisher will not host a June live stream due to the, quote, many challenges, end quote, the company now faces amid the ongoing coronavirus crisis, meaning you probably won't see any more Elder Scrolls or anything additional that we were hoping to see and new stuff, right?
Right.
I also think this is a convenient way, and maybe this is the cynic in me. I also think this is a nice, convenient way for them to make sure that they can't disappoint people by showing off too little, personally. Right? Because people are all psyched about Elder Scrolls 6 and all this other stuff. Right. I think this is probably just a way for them to make sure that they don't, show off too little and disappoint people.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out to people. Number 2, the second on this list here, is that Sony is doing some good work on the front lines, apparently with the coronavirus. Sony has set up a $100 million COVID-19 relief fund designed to support. Yeah, it is awesome. Those around the world affected by the coronavirus. According to WHO, the number of infections obviously is going to reach 1 million within days. Well, this article is a couple days old. It has passed 1 million. It's at 1.1, probably on our way to 1.2. But Sony has earmarked 3 areas it wants to support with money: assistance for frontline medical and first responder efforts, support for children and educators who must now work remotely. So maybe I'll see some of that cash. I doubt it. And support for the creative community in the entertainment industry, such as music, pictures, games, and animation. So $10 million of the fund will go straight to the COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund for WHO, powered by the UN Foundation and Swiss Philanthropy Foundation. So that's pretty cool. They are shelling out some cash.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome of them.
Yeah. I mean, why not, right? They've got, and this isn't just PlayStation, this is Sony as a whole. And so I wanted to make sure I'm pointing that out too, right? It's not just something where, Sony PlayStation is giving this out. This is this company as a whole, which is kind of awesome of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, speaking of money, on the other flip side of this, Borderlands employees will not receive their promised bonus in the form they expected, according to a report by Kotaku, whose sources say that Gearbox employees will no longer receive the royalty bonuses promised throughout development. Now, what I found interesting about this, Matt, is that the news was apparently broken yesterday, a couple of days ago, by CEO Randy Pitchford, who said developers would now receive much smaller bonus checks than the ones expected. And the reason given was that the game had been more expensive than anticipated, combined with significant company growth and off-base sales projections. And so there's lots of tech stuff in the rest of this about, you can go read it if you want on different websites, about Unreal Engine 3 and Unreal Engine 4 and them switching through, and the 2K deal that was involved, blah, blah, blah. But apparently the problem with all of this is that most employees apparently work at lower salaries at 2K and at Gearbox with promises of bonuses down the line. And so they actually work under what they're worth in hopes of making that money back with those promises.
Oh, wow.
Right, of those bonuses.
Right.
And so this is kind of biting them in the rear at this point. And Pitchford didn't exactly respond appropriately. He told developers that they were welcome to quit if they didn't like the royalty system. But he said he hoped to get employees more money as an advance on future royalties. And I wanted to know, what did you think of that? Because you work on a salary commission base.
Yeah, that's commission though, not royalties.
Well, yeah, convert it though. What if they said, well, suddenly, we can't quite give you the royalties or the commission that you earned because the cost for doing business with this company was more than we expected? I
don't know.
How would you feel about that? Would you look elsewhere?
I'd feel pretty bad. Yeah. Well, I mean, in this current climate, I don't know. Maybe I'd start to look elsewhere. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know what is really out there right now.
And that's kind of where he's got. I mean, so here's the thing, at least with gaming companies, a lot of them are still working remotely and they're not, people aren't losing their jobs, or at least we haven't seen that yet. Right.
Right. Exactly.
So it's a little bit of a safer industry at the moment, but the timing of it is really poor with what's going on.
Certainly.
With everything. And so I was a little shocked by that and a little disappointed and a little bummed for them, these employees but I guess they also kind of knew going into this that they would be making less money. The problem I have with it is that they were promised that money and now that's being pulled back from them. And I don't know how I would feel about that if I was one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of the cheap part about this, if you want to call it cheap, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. Like with the way things are going, for them to kind of take back something that was already promised. I mean, can they do that contractually? Like, how does that work? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's got to be some wording in there that allows them to do this
like this. And so it's a shame. Certainly I hope that the people get what they deserve in terms of money, right? People are able to earn back what they deserve. Absolutely. It is a crummy situation. And like I said, I know I would be pretty upset if that had happened to me and I was promised money. So moving on. Number 4, Matt, good things come in 3s, but now they'll come in 2s. I know you and I played a lot of Apex Legends at one point. They have made duos a permanent mode now. And so that is just enough reason for me to maybe jump back into it. And this is the reason I think you'll want to jump back into Apex Legends. Along with that permanent rotation between, or permanent duos mode, they also have a permanent rotation between maps and a new Bloodhound themed town takeover. So from April 7th to the 21st, players will be able to take part in an event called The Old Ways, focused on the hunter legend Bloodhound. As a town takeover event similar to Octane's, Bloodhound is getting a themed takeover on World's Edge. Players will need to battle ferocious prowlers for their chance at high-tier loot. I believe that's the lion snake creature from Titanfall. By the way, not guns. And players can scoop up goodies as a reward for venturing into this area, but it will become a bit of a hot drop. Bringing a Bloodhound with your squad will probably help, apparently, too. I know you're a big Bloodhound guy.
Correct.
Or you were when we played. And so he's going to have his whole theme thing. And so does this entice you to want to jump back into Apex Legends next week?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it sounds pretty awesome. I mean, I'm quarantined. Why not check it out? I feel like by next week, I'll probably be done with AC Odyssey. And
you and I like to tackle duos when we play games anyway. We tend to pair up just the two of us. So I thought this might be a good excuse for both of us to get back in and tackle it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Number 5, Matt, Mortal Shell. I just wanted to bring that up. Did you watch that trailer this week?
No, I did not.
Okay. It is a pretty straightforward Souls-like game, but it has some interesting gameplay wrinkles that help it stand out. This project has been kept a secret for the last 2 years.
That's nuts.
So no one knew about it. It was originally titled something differently, but they changed the name of it since then. So I guess people had some idea. But you can also traverse the landscape, taking down enemies, and you can embody deceased warriors, acquiring their skills and abilities in combat.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, you will play as a character that's a Souls-like character, but you can also jump bodies. And each type of shell has its own skill tree. So you could, it sounds like some of these enemies will be throughout each level, or you can maintain one for a while and build his skills up. So that's a game that sounds awesome. It's supposed to release sometime in 2020. I wanted to bring that one up. I also wanted to bring up that May 5th, John Wick Hex from Mike Bithell will be arriving on consoles. It was on PC last year, but it is coming May 5th. So I did want to bring that up as well. Are you excited about John Wick Hex at all?
No, I am not, Robert.
Okay, fair enough. Have you heard anything of it? Do you know of it?
I mean, I know of it, but I never really looked into exactly what it is. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I would, if I looked into it, I would say, yeah, that's going to be awesome. But I'm not super familiar with it.
Okay. I was just curious. I know I'm a big John Wick fan, and so I'm kind of excited to see how, although I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about the gameplay, but from what I've read, it grows on you. So we'll see. So that was just 5-6 quick news stories I wanted to bring up. Some of them good news, some of them just simply releases. Matt, I really want to dive into the biggest story, and there's no point in delaying it. We can talk about the other stuff afterwards, but...
Nice pun. Nice pun.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I did not know I was doing that, but I'm going to pretend that I did now. Let's open up. Let's not delay it any further. This time I know it's intentional. Let's talk about The Last of Us Part 2 being delayed, because a couple of weeks ago, we said that there was a good chance that additional stuff would be delayed, and you said you weren't sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I wouldn't be surprised. And here we are a couple weeks later, and look what we're missing out on. So it's been delayed indefinitely.
Oh, that makes me so mad.
Yeah, it is. It is frustrating. Now, I do want to point out one thing, though, because I want to read this, too. And so as we get into this, I do want to read that Druckmann did clarify something. He said in the PlayStation podcast, he said, "We know we have a great game, but we just have to wait a little longer to get it out to fans. I know fans are disappointed, but we're just as disappointed, if not more. We're at the 1 yard line," he continued, talking about being finished. "There are still some bugs we're finding, and we want to polish as much as we can. The game is there. that's the frustrating part. We just have to sit on it for a little bit and figure out how the best way to get it to our fans. And he said the quote, "This is a worldwide game that every country is waiting for, and we want to make sure we're fair when talking about a digital only release. If we only get it to a small fraction of people, what does that mean for people who don't get it? We're looking at all sorts of options and considering what's the best way to get it to all our fans as soon as possible. But that's going to take time," end quote.
Free PS Plus game.
I wanted your thought on this because
Yeah.
we can joke about that, right? We joke about it being a free game.
Yeah.
But they obviously don't want to go the digital only route. And I wanted your thoughts on that because I have some thoughts on why. But
Well, I mean, the problem is not everyone has internet access like that, right? You know, because of that, is it really fair that, you know, some parts of the country or some parts of the world would be able to play it and others would not? No, not necessarily. But, you know, when you manufacture things like that, it's hard to get out with everything that's going on, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand the delay. It's frustrating because I am one of those people that can download a full game and would like to have done that. But yeah, I guess we're just going to have to wait.
Yeah. And so I think what's not being spoken here, or what I'm reading between the lines with this too, and it's pretty clear to me, is that they sense that they will lose potential sales because of this.
Yeah.
They sense that they will easily, there's a whole section of people who are still physical collectors, or like you said, who don't have strong internet access, who want to purchase this game. And they recognize that if they go digital only, they're losing out on sales. And with the age of the internet, that will divide your fan base. It'll frustrate some people because actually, and Sony's probably learning a lesson right now because of Final Fantasy VII. Right? Final Fantasy VII is being released in other parts of the world a week early. People have already had it for 3 or 4 days and beaten it for the remake. And so what's happening now is you're having a very divided fan base. You're having a whole bunch of people who are talking about and showing playthroughs and spoiling the game for other people. And you have a whole other group of people who have no access to it and will have to wait till April 10th to actually get their hands on Final Fantasy VII, such as me. And Square Enix said that they're not releasing it digitally ahead of time, even though it's being released in other countries ahead of time. And so what you've done is effectively caused this problem where different people are getting it at different times and people are feeling excluded. Now, will that affect sales? Probably not, right? Final Fantasy VII will still sell really well. And so I think Last of Us Part 2 would still sell really well. But I think Naughty Dog recognizes that their audience would be angry with them. Yeah. A small fraction of it anyway.
So, okay, here's 2 questions then. One, why was it released early in other countries?
Because of closing the stores. You talking about Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
Because the store is closing.
Okay. They released it like before stores were to close or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. And then 2, how do you spoil a remake?
I don't know, but don't forget too, you and I are also in our 30s. I played Final Fantasy VII when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old.
Sure.
I saw somebody on Twitter today who was like, I was 2 when Final Fantasy VII came out. I am so excited I am getting to play this game remade in a new way. And so I think that you have a whole generation of people who recognize it as being exciting, but have never gone back to play the original because they just didn't want to, or maybe hadn't paid any attention to it and have seen these trailers and figured they would just wait for the new one to come out. Right?
Sure.
And so, yeah, I agree. You're not spoiling anything big. I think with Last of Us, that's where Last of Us is a little bit different, right? You would obviously have huge spoilers being revealed. And coincidentally, I don't know if you saw this, but there was stuff being leaked online. Parts of the game were being leaked online after they made this announcement that they had not released.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know. They don't know who's leaking it. They don't know where it came from. I don't know if it's an ex-employee. I don't know if it is an employee. I don't know if it's a tester. I have no idea, but someone has been leaking small parts of the game. But my question to you is this a smart thing to do, you think? Is this better than what Square Enix is doing? Or is this a better way of handling the situation?
I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. I think I guess it makes sense to a certain extent as far as delaying the release. But at the same time, I don't know, you're going to make people mad no matter what, right? If you delay
yes.
or if you put it out and some people get it and some people don't. I mean, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So yes. I guess they thought that this was going to be the best for them as far as, maybe it's a little bit more buggy than they would like. And that's really what they have to do.
I wondered that too. I wondered if this is a indirect admission that it's more buggy than they cared to admit.
Right.
And they were crunching, and because of the coronavirus, they couldn't crunch nearly as hard.
Right.
And they're so now using this to say, well, now we can really polish it. I think Druckmann has very little reason to lie at this point. And so I also can't help but think that he's probably telling the truth, that it is probably near finished and they just want to be fair. And this does sound like a Sony decision more than it does a Naughty Dog decision, which also makes me think that it's about money and the fact that they know that somehow releasing it staggered worldwide or not releasing it fairly is going to create some sort of problematic issue where their sales are not going to be as successful. And maybe it's something where they need to show investors that, look, we sold 5 million copies in 3 days.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me and to a certain extent. I mean, I guess maybe people wouldn't play it if it was spoiled, but I just don't think I don't think it would affect sales that much. People are still going to buy it when they can.
I agree.
We've been waiting how long for this game? People still are hyped for it. They still want the game. I don't think there's going to be anything that you can see or, plus if you want it that bad, you're going to avoid things on the internet anyways.
That is true.
I successfully avoided everything spoiler related to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Until it came out digitally and I could watch it at my place. Yeah, you just have to stay away from the stuff. I mean, you have to be smart and know how to do that. And it doesn't take that much to do that.
It doesn't. And again, that's where I wonder if it comes down to they're not telling us something about maybe sales with investors, where they really do think that sales with investors will, or maybe their investors will not be pleased with, well, we promised us 3 million copies in 10 days, right, and you're selling 1.5 million. And maybe they don't want to play the long game with this, because that's the other thing too, right? If I can't get my hands on it for another 4 or 5 months in a country because I can't get it physically, and the internet access is garbage, 5 months after it comes out, does Sony have the right to say, release it in, let's say, a country like Brazil, we'll just pick, and then still charge $59.99 for it or the equivalent there? Or 5 months later, people are going to be like, well, wait a minute, it's now $20 in the United States. Why am I paying? And so I wonder if there's a pricing issue tied in with that too, right?
Yeah,
so there's so many factors that tie into this. And then if you do release it and then you can't get it in another country till October, people are going to say, well, why don't you just save it for PS5 if PS5 is coming out, right? And then people are going to be more focused on spending money elsewhere. And so I think there's something about that, and we see that so many times with games, how they sell so hot in their first week and then they just they dovetail off, right? They don't drop dramatically, but they slowly and gradually sink off.
Yeah, sure.
And I almost wonder if the longer it's out, the more they're worried that they'll have that dovetail effect without having a worldwide release.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think it makes more sense with what you're saying with how can they delay it, say 5 months, 6 months or whatever, and still charge full price, if it's discounted where it came out first. So that makes sense to me, sure. But as far as people still wanting to play it 6 months later, people are still going to want to play it,
Yep. Now, the last thing I'll say about this, and we can move on, is he did say, we're looking at all sorts of options and considering what's the best way to get it out to our fans as soon as possible. I wonder what that means, because that implies that rather than waiting till he could have easily said, we're looking at the options and we will wait and see what is best regarding this situation and get it out to fans after the virus has died or something like that, right? They could have easily implied that or said something about due to COVID-19, we're waiting until the pandemic subsides to get it to fans. But he says, get it out to our fans as soon as possible. And so I wonder what that means as well. I wonder if they are considering some sort of other method, which I don't know what that would be, but something else that's up their sleeve.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
But there's definitely something else there.
I definitely think it's a Sony decision, but at the same time, I definitely think it's probably a little bit more the fact that crunch is becoming harder to do do remotely. So because of that, it's just delaying the release.
There's definitely, I'd say there's at least 15 to 20% of that connects with that too. Right. Another 20-25% is the virus. And then there's another 50%, I'd say. 50% of it, I say, is financial decision too. I definitely think it's a money's decision overall. Because they also said, and this is where, Matt, I wanted to bring this up also, because they also said that they had nothing further to announce at this time about Ghost of Tsushima. And the other thing that we're kind of glossing over that I don't want to neglect, Iron Man VR was also indefinitely delayed.
Right.
And no offense, but Iron Man VR and Last of Us Part 2 are not the same game at all, or even close in terms of prestige. So Sony either really heavily believes in Iron Man VR, or again, it's a financial decision where they want Iron Man VR to be successful. And they know right now, digitally, it would not succeed as much as it would if they had both avenues for it.
Right.
And I guess the other point to bring up is Ghost of Tsushima, they said they had nothing to say at this point, which implies or leaves the door open that if this is still going on in June, right, or the end of May, don't be shocked if we hear about Ghost of Tsushima being pushed back too.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is where you start to get real sticky mess, because do you want Tsushima out before Last of Us Part 2? Does it not matter? What happens if you can't have either one of your big games in the summer? Do you both release them in the fall? Or are you going to push one back to 2021? What happens with PS5? Does one of these then become a PS5 launch title? There's something this is tough, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they certainly didn't worry about pushing back Predator Hunting Grounds, which is also, isn't that a timed exclusive if I remember correctly?
Yeah, it might be.
And that's coming at the end of April. Now, is Predator Hunting Grounds, does that have a physical edition?
That I don't know. I would imagine so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Let me look real quick and see. Because, okay, so it actually is coming out. Okay, it does have a physical edition. And it is coming out for Microsoft Windows. So it is not an exclusive. But it is Sony published, I believe. I'll have to double check on that. So, yeah, okay, it is Sony published, Sony Interactive Entertainment. So they are publishing it, but they're not concerned about that one. Do you think this leads to Cyberpunk being delayed?
It's hard to say, man. I feel like they push it back so far that it would be hard for them not to catch up, I feel like. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like with what's going on, I feel like it will have died down enough that it shouldn't be an issue by then.
Okay.
But I mean, if it does, I mean, I would imagine. I don't know. If they're delaying Cyberpunk, I would imagine they're delaying the systems too.
Okay. And that's what I'm wondering, because Wasteland 3 was also delayed, right? That was a game that was supposed to come out this month, May 19th, or next month. I'm sorry, May 19th. It has been pushed back to August. And the reason I asked you about Cyberpunk is because Jason Schreier, who of course knows everybody and knows everything of Kotaku, somebody asked if any other companies could announce similar delays on Twitter, and he said, "Don't worry." He said something like all of them. If we could expect similar delays from anywhere else, and he said all of them, talking about other companies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel Avengers also gets pushed back, even though that's not till September. And that's more so because of the time to work on it in studio now versus the actual release date, right? And so that's the thing about a lot of these games is a bigger game. Now, if you're an indie developer, you can probably release your game no problem, right? Without having to worry about any of this or, being delayed on any of this. But I think for other games that are bigger companies, AAA companies, you're probably going to see a lot of delays coming out. All right. Anything else you wanted to say about any of that?
Nah, that's it.
Yeah, I don't blame them from delaying it. I'm just curious to see. I want to know the real story behind it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's all I really want to know. I respect it. I'm fine with it. I get it because of the situation. Doesn't mean I don't want to know the real story behind it.
True.
All right, Matt. So our second topic that I wanted to touch on before we wrap things up, we have 3 here. I wanted to touch on I guess we did touch a little bit about this, about the Final Fantasy VII shortages and early street date release, because they also talked about shortage of physical copies. I went on Amazon today just to look, and it's currently unavailable, which means clearly if you bought one off of Amazon, you're getting it. But if you wanted to buy one because you were hyped for it coming out this week, you're not going to get it. It's unavailable. I think we talked about that though, kind of when we touched about Last of Us. Would you agree? Is there anything else you want to say about that?
No, I mean, it does suck that they're going to have like physical copy shortages, but I'm sure if you wait a little bit longer or, here in America, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have access to digital copies. It shouldn't be that big of an issue.
Most people, except those I would say in Midwest and South, certainly. Like I know there's even people around me who have terrible internet. I have fantastic internet, but there's people who live less than 5 miles away that have awful internet, right? And so they would never be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking for Final Fantasy VII in a physical copy today just to see, because I don't have one pre-ordered for the remake. And I thought, well, maybe I should. I know I want to play it, blah, 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 blah. It was hard to kind of find a physical copy today. And so, but that's okay. I'm a mostly digital guy anyway. And with a kid on the way, I think it'll probably make more sense for me to not have discs lying around that she can smash and break up.
Yeah.
I've seen horror stories of kids opening up the packages because, I mean, it's not hard to open up a PS4 package, right? And then like breaking the discs playing with them. So I think I'm good with a digital copy in that case, right? And I don't have to worry about losing it or being broken. And let's be honest too, most games these days, most of the games anyway, they're not fully on the disc anyway. By the time you get them and download the patches, you've pretty much bought an empty disc, right? It's not that terrible, exactly. But it's to some degree like that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I guess we'll wrap things up before we get to see you soon. The last piece of news I wanted to talk about, or topic I want to talk about, is Sony has a huge spring sale going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at it?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit? Okay. That's good enough for me. I looked at it some too, and I wanted to ask you, because I saw this several times posted by people on different sites and Twitter, calling it a letdown. And I wanted to know, do you think that it is? Do you think their spring sale that they have going on is a letdown? Is it disappointing? Is there anything that you looked at and you're like, this is terrible?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a large selection of titles, but as far as the discount itself, yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like looking through the list right now, and I mean, there's some decent deals, I guess. Nothing that really like jumps out at me, but
yeah. And so I guess that's what I was going to bring up. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a good deal at $40 after being out for only like a month or a month and a half.
Yeah.
But a lot of these other games, I do feel like it's rather appropriate. They're on sale. NBA 2K20 for $20. EA Sports FIFA 20 for $24. I think NHL 20 is $40. Death Stranding is $30. Jedi Fallen Order is $35. Need for Speed Heat is $30. Those are a lot of these are games that I think this would be an appropriate price based on the amount of time they've been out. Borderlands 3 for $29. That's not the first time. That went on sale for Black Friday, I think, for $30. And so
yeah,
Days Gone for $20. That's been there before.
I honestly feel like Borderlands has been cheaper.
It could have been. It may have been. I'm not sure. I don't track
maybe that. Maybe that's the gripe with some people. Like some of these games have been listed as cheaper prices at different times of the year. And they're like, well, especially now, like, why are we, but, it has to do with like manufacturers and how much they actually want to discount it.
Yeah. And to me too, a lot of these games are big hit games.
Yeah.
But they're also stuff that I either own, have played, or by now I have no interest in playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Dragon Ball FighterZ Z has been on sale for $15 like every 3 weeks now. And so that's not necessarily anything exciting to me. Greed Falls for $25. Now that's a good deal, I think, even though I got it for, I think, $35 in store. $25 is a real good deal for that. It's definitely worth it for that. But there's a lot of games in here that, I just don't, I don't know. I'm looking at them and it's like, why are there's not much here, I think. And I don't know what people were expecting. I'm not even sure what I was expecting, but I think you hit it on the head with a lot of these games were already on sale for the same price, if not cheaper, prior to this. And I don't know. But people also have to remember, we haven't exactly had a slew of games coming out this year because everything's been delayed.
Exactly.
We've only had very few. And so that also makes it a little bit tough too. And so I don't know.
Plus, I feel like with everything going on, people are just trying to still get by. Like studios are still trying to bring in some kind of money. So having deep discounts now doesn't exactly make sense, right?
Right. Yeah, it's tough to want to buy something too if you've lost your job and so I don't know. It's one of those sales I was really looking forward to, but then when I go through and I look at it, I'm like, there's nothing in here.
Nothing really stands out.
Yeah, nothing I don't already own or haven't already played. There is part of the best deal for me would be the Surge 2 for $24.
Yeah.
But I'm playing Neo 2 and I don't need another Souls-like game right now, right?
Right.
You know, I've heard terrible things about Tokyo Ghoul Call to Exist. That just came out a month ago. It's $29.99, which is probably why it's $29.99. But otherwise, that would be a good deal if it was a good game. So I wanted to bring it up because I was curious if you had felt the same way, if you had gotten a chance to look through it, you know, and maybe if I'm wrong, maybe there's something on here that wows you. Please hit me up on Twitter at WeAreOneUR2. I'd love to know. I'm not knocking the sale completely because I'm sure there's something for somebody. It's just for me, most of these games, the big games that are on sale, I've already played.
Right.
And so I don't particularly need any of these or want any of them. I was kind of hoping for some of the smaller indie titles that have been coming out recently, or the smaller, you know, games that have been coming out recently that we read on the blog every week. I was hoping those would be on sale.
Yeah.
Because those are newer and still interesting, but this would be a great way to get them some attention.
Yeah, absolutely. With nothing like big coming out these days.
Right. And so, I mean, there's some big stuff coming out obviously this week that we're going to talk about, but, you know, still until Friday hits, you know, with Final Fantasy VII, for example, that would have been a perfect time to hit up some of these smaller games. All right. Speaking of smaller games and stuff that is coming out, unless you've got anything else to say, I think I'm ready.
Let's do it. See you soon.
See you soon. All right. So, Matt, we've got a real banger this week. 15 games coming out. So we're going to run through them as tradition dictates.
Yep. I'm going to start.
You start us off.
Here we go. Up first, we got AFL Evolution 2 PS4 digital out April 9th. The evolution continues, a true reflection of the modern AFL game. Pursue your goals with greater depth, improved draft, free agency, and state leagues. Includes Guernsey creator, player, and team management. Create/share online on FanHub. Play head-to-head and top the leaderboard, or team up with up to 8 mates online.
I would love to know what a Guernsey creator is.
Yeah, me too. Also, what is the AFL?
Isn't that... Well, it looks like Australian football league.
Or...
Well, I would assume it's Australian Football League, right? Because that looks like rugby they're playing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is that rugby then? Yeah. Okay. All right.
I just don't know. If you're down under and you want to let us know what the Guernsey is, I would love to know what a Guernsey is because I'm not looking it up.
Yeah, Guernsey creator.
Sounds like a disease. All right. Below PS4 digital, explore, survive, and discover what lies below in this brooding, atmospheric dungeon crawler. Below presents a vast underworld of ever-shifting labyrinths where deadly monstrosities, cunning traps, and a shadowy presence lurk in every passage. What lies below? Only the brave will find out.
Ooh. Alrighty, up next we got Biped, PS4 digital out April 8th. Biped is a physics-based 3D co-op action-adventure game with a strong focus on moment-to-moment collaboration between two players. Two little bipedal robots, Aku and Sila, will walk side by side and embark on a fun and bonding journey to accomplish their mission on planet Earth.
All right. Brave Land Trilogy comes out PS4 digital out April 10th. The story takes place in a hand-drawn world and covers many interesting places and characters. Various warriors will join your army: archers, scouts, healers, footmen, arbalesters, and more. That said, nothing.
All right. If you can't go outside and build things, you can stay home and build things. Up next, we got Construction Simulator 3. Console Edition, PS4 Digital. Construction Simulator 3 returns to Europe. Discover an idyllic European town with officially licensed vehicles by famous brands. Take on diverse and challenging contracts. Shape the skyline of your city and expand your vehicle fleet. Interesting.
Cool. Convoy, a tactical roguelike. Convoy is a tactical roguelike in which you cross a wasteland in search of parts for your broken ship. You travel with your combat vehicles and convoy across a wasteland to find parts needed to repair your broken spaceship. So we went from a broken ship to a broken spaceship. Keep your convoy and its cargo safe from raiders, privateers, and other enemies during your journey. I'm excited about this next. This next one, by the way, has a demo on the PlayStation Store. I'm excited.
Ooh, fun. Okay, up next, Disaster Report 4, Summer Memories, PS4 Digital Retail. A calm summer day turns into catastrophe when a massive earthquake strikes the city, throwing buildings and lives into chaos. In order to survive, you must navigate familiar locations under unfamiliar circumstances. The fellow survivors you meet and crucial decisions you make will ultimately determine how your journey through this crisis will end. Ooh.
That game was supposed to come out in, I believe, 2011. And then they had that huge earthquake in Japan.
Oh, wow.
That they had the huge tsunami. And so not only did they decide not to release it because of the sensitivity of the timing of everything, but also I'm pretty sure that the studio got flooded in which they were making this. And so they were unable to finish working on it right away.
Wow.
And so this game has been kind of updated a little bit, but it looks really interesting. It's definitely a niche game, but something worth maybe checking out.
Yeah.
All right. Final Fantasy VII Remake, PS4 Digital Retail. Spectacular reimagining of one of the most visionary games ever. Final Fantasy VII Remake rebuilds and expands the legendary RPG for today. The first entry in a multi-part saga, delivering a level of depth inconceivable for the original. Mind-blowing story, unforgettable characters, epic battles, and technical excellence collide. And what I'm most excited about for that game is they have changed up some of it.
Okay.
Not the core story, but some of the character interactions, some of the way things occur, some of the areas. And so that's also kind of the spoilery part we were talking about before, right? Kind of like RE2 and RE3 remakes where they've completely changed some stuff. You don't want to ruin it for everybody. So, alrighty.
All right. Up next, we got Form PSVR Digital. Enter a surreal adventure where puzzles are built from dreams and memories. Solve the mystery behind an ancient artifact. Advance through a world that transforms around you. Transcend this existence. Charm Games brings you Form, a surreal adventure that unfolds within the confines of the human mind. Cool.
All right. Not bad. That was a VR game, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that might be interesting. All right. Galaxy of Pen and Paper +1 edition. PS4. Galaxy of Pen and Paper is a turn-based meta RPG about a group of players rolling dice in the year 1999. Create your own game master and RPG party as they roleplay, explore distant planets in their imagination, fight weird aliens, and save the galaxy in the era of dial-up internet and floppy disks.
Okay.
Like
Next, Null Drifter, PS4 Digital. Blast into a 1-bit lo-fi simulation that will gradually train your skills up to become the ultimate space fighter pilot. Secretly part of the Project Starship world, this twin-stick shooter is designed to prepare pilots for their mission against the awakened forces of the Void.
I do love my twin-stick shooters.
I know you do.
But I'll tell you what, it is tough. It is tough to make a good one. And that's why I loved Housemarque, because Housemarque was so good at that. I really hope they come back to that. All right, a room where art conceals, PSVR. In the distant future, many masterpieces of art have disappeared in the turmoil, and people have lost their emotions in the indifference of survival. Well, you accidentally opened the door to a mysterious old space and woke up the robot guarding the paintings in some way. Who will guide you to find those lost paintings by entering the world within those famous paintings and experience the emotions of such fascinating paintings?
Interesting. Okay.
Take a shot every time I said paintings.
Yeah, legit. Paintings. All right. Up next, we got Rush Rover PS4, PS Vita digital cross-buy action. Rush Rover is a 2D top-down shooter game with gameplay mechanics similar to traditional shmups. It includes random map generation, unique weapons, lots of different enemies, exciting boss battles, and a dynamic chiptune soundtrack. Ooh. Chiptune soundtrack. Love it.
Yeah. Chase, that we interviewed a long time ago, does a lot of that stuff, right? So,
yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Sharknado VR, Eye of the Storm, PSVR. Fight your way through swarms of hungry flying sharks in Sharknado VR. Slice them with the chainsaw, shred them with the machine guns, or explode them with the RPG. Can you survive the Sharknado?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe. All right, last but certainly not least, Troubleshooter, PS4 digital, out April 9th. Why did dinosaurs go extinct? Bad weather? Meteors? Or because a maniac with rainbow hair? Who knows? Troubleshooter is a top-down arcade shooter. Fight through endless waves of unsuspecting dinosaurs and prove you are the best. Grab a friend and rampage together. Use meteor showers and upgrades to your advantage.
Interesting.
I misspoke. Use meteors showers and upgrades to your advantage. My brain automatically corrected the bad grammar.
Fair enough. All right, Matt, that wraps it up. Final Fantasy VII Remake is definitely a keeper for me this week. Honestly, that's probably the one that if I had to... And Disaster Report, I guess, I'm going to check out that demo because I've been waiting a long time for that. And so, other than that, I'd say it's kind of a week of backlogging. Although...
For sure.
Null Drifter, I may have to look up because I do like my twin stick shooters.
It's a 1-bit, so...
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about 1-bit. Two little
dots.
bits.
Just dots.
I like more bits than that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps it up. That's all I've got. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out, Matt. Thanks for hanging out with me this week.
Oh, my pleasure,
always.
Rob. I love social distancing with you, buddy.
Yeah. You and I have been real good at it for several years now. So
that's right.
But remember, we are a podcast that is already remotely done. And so if you're unhappy with those other podcasts in their remoteness, you'll be happy with ours because we've got it down. And if you like what you hear, certainly go find us on your favorite podcasting service. Don't go over to Patreon. Don't give us $1. We don't want it right now. Save it. Save your hard-earned cash. Wait till the virus has passed, then throw $1 our way. And until next time, game on.
Game on. Sharknado, outro music, flying sharks in tornado form. Here comes one now.
Goodness, that was a roller coaster of emotion for me.
I wonder how that sounded.
We'll find out.